Hi yogis, this is Julie from Totally Holistic Health, and today we're going to continue exploring a little bit more about sort of the yoga philosophy. Obviously last week we talked about ahimsa, and I'd be interested to see how you got on with that. Basically ahimsa is part of something called the Yoga Sutras. So the Yoga Sutras is actually a collection of sort of texts and sort of readings and writings that basically sort of written between sort of 300 BC and 400 AD, but they actually have been credited to a yogi called Patanjali, but obviously because of the actual, the length of the actual sort of between the sort of the start and the end of, obviously it probably wasn't actually written by him unless he was a very old man, but basically they've been attributed to him. So they tend to be the sort of the mainstay of a lot of yoga teaching. Or most yoga teaching actually, really. And the sutra basically means a thread, so it's really it's like teaching that's offered from sort of the teacher to the student, basically just to create a greater philosophical and or increase that the idea of the philosophy and the concepts behind the spiritual growth of the actual student. So there's lots of there's something called the 8 limbs of yoga, and these are basically the sutras. So you have the yamas, which is what I'm covering at the moment. We've got the niyamas. So the yamas are codes or restraints. The niyamas are sort of observances. Then you have the actual asana practice. So obviously the asana practice is only a tiny amount of actually what yoga is about. And the asana practice basically is a preparation for meditation. You also have pranayama, which is the expansion of the breath. You also have pratyahara, which basically is withdrawal of the senses, but obviously we're going to cover all these as we're going along. You also have dhyana, which is concentration. These are just very basic translations of the actual Sanskrit. You have dhyana, which is meditation, and then you have samadhi, which is basically that deep absorption, and basically that's what you're trying to achieve when you're actually doing a yoga practice, is actually come into samadhi, which is that connection between the universe and yourself. So Satya is the second of the yamas, and basically in translation it really means truthfulness. So it's sort of like, in terms of sort of like living a yogic life, it's about sort of being more truthful with your words, but sort of also just your feelings as well, being truthful how you feel about things, also your thoughts and your actions. So it's basically, again, looking at the way you actually live and whether you are actually truthful with how you're actually living as well. Being really honest with yourself. And also when you speak, do you actually speak your thoughts, or are your words actually truthful when you speak, or are you just basically going along with the flow? On the mat, you can sort of look at it in terms of, I was talking about when I went to a yoga class on Sunday and I wasn't really feeling it. So aside from the fact that I was practicing ahimsa, I was being very kind and gentle with myself. I also was practicing Satya as well, because I was actually really honest with myself, and I thought actually one of the facts I shouldn't have gone if I was actually being really honest with myself. But I was honest in terms of actually on the mat, I wasn't feeling I wanted to do the actual postures that were actually sort of being taught. So not that I didn't want to do them, I just didn't feel that I wasn't being truthful with myself that I had done them, basically, because my body wasn't really feeling up to it. So it's really having that confidence to actually, if you're looking at it in your own practice, I just sometimes getting on the mat in the morning is my it's where I sort of really practice my Satya. I just sort of think, what do I actually want to achieve today, but also how do I feel? And it's really, that's the really good way of actually looking inside and just sort of thinking, sometimes I actually do want to be more energized. Sometimes, sometimes it is a struggle to get on the mat sometimes if you're really not feeling it, but I always feel 100% better once I do. So it's just really listening into what your body's telling you and actually really being truthful with actually what you want to do. So sometimes it can just be a meditation, sometimes it can be just a very gentle opening up, stretching of the body, and sometimes it can be a full-blown, yoga practice. Sometimes it can be a bit more yin, sometimes it can be a little bit more, a bit stronger. But again, really listening to what your body's telling you and just being truthful and just going with it. And the main thing really is sort of accepting the times when basically you're not truthful with yourself. So sometimes, if you do go with the flow, if you go to a class and you sort of sometimes regret it afterwards. It's actually having that confidence to actually say, no, actually, I'm not feeling that today. I'm going to do a more gentle practice for you rather than just copying what everyone else is doing. Because, you know, yoga tends to be, or a lot of people tend to see yoga as being very competitive, and obviously it's not. It really is looking and being truthful to yourself. So again, off the mat, so basically just sort of see yourself as actually accepting your faults as well is actually quite important as well. So really being truthful with yourself and actually sort of saying, actually admitting your faults, that's actually quite a big Satya thing, and I've got lots of them. And also just being, you know, before you sort of speak, just sort of thinking about what you're actually going to say, and is what you'll say, first of all, truthful, but also again going back to ahimsa, is it going to cause any harm to that person you're speaking to? So again, it's just being a bit more kind, being a bit more honest with yourself, and these are just sort of like slow things that you will develop over time if you really want to look at developing more of these sort of yogic philosophy in your actual life. And obviously a lot of this stuff is actually off the mat, it's not actually on the mat. But again, just by adding these little things in, you know, on a sort of daily basis or weekly basis, you will find that your attitude changes to things. So again, it might be just a very subtle change, but just having these things in the back of your mind is actually really, really important. So what I'll do, I'm going to create a little Satya practice for you, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll report back next week on how you've actually been getting on with being more Satya with your approach to life. So take care, and I will see you next time. See you then. Bye bye.